Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Michelle. Welcome to Sky Observers Hangout. I'm the Director of Public Observing at the Adler Planetarium in Chicago, and I have a friend joining me, and my friend is...
Me! Hi, everyone. I'm Adriana, and I am the astronomy educator at the Adler. We've also got some other friends behind the scenes joining us tonight. Our YouTube chat moderator tonight is Robert. Hello, Robert. And answering questions in the chat is our astronomer friend, Geza. Hello to Geza also. If you see the Adler's name highlighted in yellow, that's Robert. And when you see a name with a blue wrench next to it in the chat, that's Geza, helping us by answering your questions and comments. So please ask them tonight.
Now, Sky Observers Hangout is a place for us to gather together every once in a while to nerd out about the sky. Our goal is to give you practical tips that you can find useful about lots of things related to sky observing. If you want to just watch, that is totally perfectly fine. We would also love to see your questions and comments in the chat. Feel free to interact with us and with each other.
Yes, talk to us. So to get this show started, tell us in the chat where you are tuning in from. And as an added bonus, if you'd like to share, tell us what your zodiac constellation is and whether or not you've been able to find it in the night sky.
So while you're doing that, while the Adler's doors must remain closed, we are doing our best to keep our virtual doors open by creating and sharing some out-of-this-world content, especially for you. If you wouldn't mind, use the link that we put in the chat to donate what you feel comfortable to contribute to our programming. Thank you so much for allowing us to keep sharing our universe with you.
Yes. And you can also help us get more visibility for our shows by hitting the subscribe button for the Adler Planetarium's YouTube channel right below this video. You can also give us a thumbs up. So let's see where you guys are all tuning in from and see if anybody has shared a little bit more about their zodiac constellation. Let's see. Oh, we have friends. Hello, friends. Mark and Jennifer, both from Toronto, Canada.
Oh, hello.
We've got Madeline from Chicago. Hello, me too. Ken from Oakland, California. Oh, hi, Carmen. We know Carmen. Carmen from Lincolnwood. Awesome. We've got some people's zodiac constellations in here too. I see Aquarius, Taurus, Aries, Leo. Oh, exciting. Okay, awesome. So, Michelle, let me ask you, since I have all of these people telling us what their zodiac constellations are, what is your zodiac constellation?
So I'm tuning in from Aurora, Illinois, and my zodiac constellation is Libra. But I've never seen it. I have never seen it in the sky. It's not a bright one. So yeah, I know. I've never been able to pick it out. I'd need to go out to a dark sky location in order to find it. It does, however, have one of the most fun star names to pronounce. Get ready, my friends. I will introduce you to the name of Zubin El-Ganubi.
It sounds kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi, but like somebody messed up. Zubin
El-Ganubi, yes.
Did I get it?
Close enough. Honestly, I'm not even 100% certain I'm pronouncing it correctly. But yeah, it is a completely fun star name to pronounce. So what's your zodiac constellation?
It is Leo. I saw somebody in the chat said they have the same one. I think it was Madeline. So I also have a similar birthday, but I have seen that constellation. It's easy enough to see. The stars are pretty decently bright, so I was able to see it a little bit outside of Chicago. So easy for me to find, luckily.
Very cool. So any other folks you want to say hi to before we go on?
Yeah, sure. We have Tachi, I don't know if I'm saying that right, from the Virgin Islands. Ooh. Very cool. I'm from Puerto Rico, which is not too far from there. Kira from Glen Ellen, Aries, that's also my sister's zodiac constellation.
There you go.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Yes, thank you. All right, so we are going to take a look at some of the wintertime zodiac constellations because those are some of the easiest ones to see. They're nice and high in the sky. They're bright. They're up in the early evening. If you're in the Chicagoland area, yes, we know tonight is probably not the night that you're going to want to go out and look because it is completely cloudy, but that's okay. The information that we're going to give you isn't just good for tonight. So, all right. But first, we were talking about the zodiac. What exactly is the zodiac? Simply put, it's the background of constellations that the planets, the sun, and the moon appear to move in front of. So the zodiac of 12 constellations that you're familiar with has come through the millennia in various forms. And some of those constellations are from the civilizations of Babylon and Sumer in Mesopotamia, several thousand years ago. These are some old constellations. And because the sun, the moon, and planets moved within a very specific band of stars in the sky, those stars were determined and thought to be significant, and their movements were and are interpreted.
Excellent. So the word zodiac comes from ancient Greek words that mean ring or circle or cycle of animals. But the concept of the zodiac is much older than the ancient Greeks. Many, many people all over the world saw different patterns and placed significance on them in various ways. What we're talking about here is a list of 12 that you often see mentioned in Western constellation lists: Libra, Scorpius, and the others. So let's take a look at how to find several wintertime zodiac constellations. We're going to use something we've shown you quite a few times. If you have seen a couple of Sky Observers Hangout episodes, it is a free online resource called Stellarium. And Robert is going to link to it in the chat in just a minute if you want to follow along with us or try it later. While Michelle is getting set up here, I do want to send a very special hello to Max, who is 4. Max, what's your zodiac constellation? Let us know in the chat.
We would love to know what Max's zodiac constellation is. So if Max or a parent of Max or a guardian of Max or someone related to Max could put that information in, we would love that. So, okay. All right, so I've got Stellarium up. Can we see it? I think we can see it. All right, so this is Stellarium. If you have joined us for Sky Observers Hangout in the past, this will look very familiar. Stellarium is a free online planetarium program, stellarium-web.org. You don't need an account or anything like that. And so I have this set for tonight. But you can dial it up for any date, and you can do that in the little box that's at the lower right-hand portion of the screen. I've got the time set for about 7:30 tonight. It knows where I am because I told it, yeah, you can figure out where I am. So it will show me my sky. And so we are facing south. So I can do that by moving, just clicking and dragging. I can move it around. And then here at the bottom where it says constellations, I'm just going to click that and it's going to bring up the constellation lines. So let us find a couple constellations. Now, the easiest way I have found to do this is to look for our signpost constellation, Orion, right here. He's easy to spot. Pretty much literally every landmass on Earth at least can see part of Orion, if not the whole thing. So go outside, 7:30, 8 o'clock, face south, look up, about halfway up in the sky. There he is. Easy, easy. And so you want to look for Orion's belt, those 3 stars in a line. And what you want to do is follow Orion's belt upward to get to Taurus. And so I'm going to move this down just a tiny bit. So we've got Taurus. If you follow Orion's belt up, you run into the brightest star that's his eye. That's called Aldebaran. That's the eye of Taurus in the face there. You got a couple horns. And then if you go to Orion's left, you have the constellation Gemini. I'll move a little bit over. It's if you are turning your head to be able to look at Gemini. And so there it is. We've got Pollux and Castor, which are the 2 brightest stars there, called the Gemini twins. But then if we look a little bit farther over, the next one, I've never seen it. This is I really never looked for it. It's not a very bright constellation. It's a constellation of Cancer the Crab. But then over a little farther, coming up in the east, easy to spot. We've got a backwards question mark here and a bright star here called Regulus. There we go. And that is Leo the Lion. So the backwards question mark is his head. Regulus is his heart. We've got his back, his hind legs, and his tail. His tail is not Vesta. That is an asteroid. His tail, the nebula. Vesta just happens to be in that direction tonight. So there we go. There are other zodiac constellations that are up. So if I back out a little bit and I go the other way, you can see we've got Pisces and Aries right here. But again, those are not terribly bright. Pisces is huge, but it's not a terribly bright constellation. But if you can find Taurus, if you can find Gemini, if you can find Leo, that's a pretty good start. I'd say that's a pretty good start right there.
Awesome. My personal favorite is Leo because it actually looks like the thing that it's supposed to be.
He's one of the few.
Yeah, you can see the lion, right?
Yes.
It's easy to see.
Yes.
All right, so in astronomy, we have a term for the path that the sun appears to travel in the sky. It is called the ecliptic. The green line that we're going to show, Michelle's going to pull it up in just a second.
Yep, I'll pull it up in just a sec.
All right, so the green line that you're going to see in this image is called the ecliptic.
And hang on. Technical
no
difficulty.
Problem.
Hang on. There we go. Coming up. There you go.
That's okay. Fine. It's a live show, everybody. You know what's going on. All right. So that green line is called the ecliptic. You can find it against the background of the zodiac constellations. So you can see some of the constellations that we just talked about right there. Where we get that word ecliptic from is that eclipses can only occur when the moon's orbit crosses the sun's path, either when the moon moves through the shadow in space cast by the Earth for lunar eclipses, or when the moon's orbit brings it in front of the sun for solar eclipses. So the moon has to appear on this green path that we call the ecliptic in order for us to get an eclipse.
Yep.
That's where it got that name.
Exactly. Cool stuff, right? So because the orbits of the planets in our solar system are generally pretty flat compared to the sun and its equator, so it's middle, you can see that they don't stray too far from the ecliptic and those zodiac constellations. So I put up the paths of various planets in the solar system. So you can see I've got Mars up there and Uranus and several others. And so if you take a look and go, wow, they don't really stray. You're not going to find the planets in widely, humongously different parts of the sky, right? Now, where does your zodiac constellation come from? So, for example, if Gemini is your zodiac constellation, you may wonder why you can see it in the winter, but Gemini is your constellation much closer to summer. So let's go on. There we go. So without going into the specifics of different types of astrology, because there are different types, but that's not the focus of this show, but there are different types. The constellation in the background where the sun is in the sky is that particular time period's zodiac constellation, approximately. For example, right now, the constellation in the background where the sun is in the sky is Capricorn. Pretty interesting, right? In a few weeks, it's Aquarius, and then Pisces, and so on. So there you go. That's where that comes from.
And if I want to see, So if I want to see my zodiac constellation, I have to wait 6 months for my birthday. It's a better time to actually look. So my half birthday, there's a reason to celebrate now.
Party! Awesome.
Celebrate your half birthday. Go look for your zodiac constellation.
There you go. That's a good idea. I like thinking about that. Yes, that's exactly right.
All right, so we showed you where Gemini and Taurus are in the sky. One thing to ponder is that scholars think that several of these constellations may be some of the oldest that we know of from the time of the Babylonian civilizations, especially Taurus, Scorpius, which is a scorpion and also Max's zodiac constellation, and a few others. So it's amazing to think that when you look up at the sky, you're looking at some of the same patterns in the sky that people looked at several thousand years ago.
So think about that. Not just the same stars. Of course, they're the same stars. In a handful of cases, you're looking at the same actual pattern, the same stars in a group that people picked out. That is amazing to think about. That is a connection to civilizations from long, long ago that is just neat to think about when you're actually looking up at the sky. So it's not just the same people looking up now, it's the same people and people back then looking up at the same pieces of sky. So cool.
Very neat. So we do have a couple questions, Michelle. I'm going
Yeah.
to ask you this one. Since the sun's position appears from, as an observer on Earth, to pass through Ophiuchus on the ecliptic, why isn't that constellation included in the zodiac?
So Ophiuchus is a constellation that you may or may not have heard of. It's the serpent holder. He's holding a snake, and at one point it was Ophiuchus. The entire constellation was one, but then it was split up later on into Ophiuchus and the snake's head and the snake's tail. Those are three separate constellations. Which don't ask why. It's crazy. Anyway, so actually, you could ask why. We could get into that too. But Ophiuchus does happen to come. Sorry, I should back up. About 100 years ago, there was a group of astronomers called the International Astronomical Union. And the International Astronomical Union decided that they were going to portion out the entire sky into constellations, not just this group of stars here, which is Taurus's head. It was this entire chunk of sky is Taurus. And they did that for literally the entire sky. Now, why did they do that? The reason they did it was at the time they were finding a lot of stars that changed in brightness. They call them variable stars. And so they decided, okay, well, we take the name of the constellation to name these variable stars. We need to all agree. So when we're communicating with each other, us astronomers, we need to all agree that we're talking about the same constellation. So they said, let's just portion out the sky so that we're all in agreement on which pieces of sky we're talking about when we say this star right here is in this constellation. And where they drew the boundaries of Ophiuchus, it happens to pass over where you would think of for the ecliptic. So if it was just Ophiuchus himself with the snake and just that, it wouldn't really come close enough, I don't think, to the ecliptic to fall on the ecliptic. But because the IAU went and portioned out the sky, and these constellations just take up big pieces, then that's how you kind of bleed over into the ecliptic. It's kind of a modern thing. It makes sense though that these astronomers were doing this around 1920, 1925, because people were portioning out the planet for better or worse. There was a lot of colonial activity going on at that point. The people were carving out the sky too. So it makes sense they were doing on the ground what they did in the sky, although for peaceful purposes and naming things is why they did it in the sky. But it's really just so astronomers could talk to each other and all agree that they were looking at the same piece of sky, so they could name these stars correctly. It's really where all that came from.
Gotcha.
And it's just that extra boundary piece of sky that Ophiuchus he expanded. He got a little bigger.
Got it. Cool. All right. We've got one more question. Which astrological star formations are not visible in the current view? So I'm going to assume that somebody was talking about, this is Mark's question.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume that he was talking about the view that we had up before for what might be in your night sky tonight.
Sure. Yeah. Do you want me to go forward in time?
Well, no, I remember. So we had Leo, Cancer, Taurus, Gemini, Aries, and Pisces that we saw, right?
Right.
So the ones that weren't up, Aquarius, Capricorn, Sagittarius, Scorpio, Libra, and Virgo. But if you did want to see those this time of year, you would just have to wait a little bit further into the night. You can't see all of them this time of year. But there are some that I think Michelle's going to move forward in time in Stellarium, so you can see some of them will continue to rise.
Yep.
So it's just a matter of staying up a little bit later.
Exactly. So right after Leo is Virgo. So looks like you got to wait till a little after midnight this time of year to actually see Virgo. And Virgo is a rather large constellation. Libra comes after that. And I know when I'm starting to see Scorpius in the morning that the warmer weather is going to be at some point going to be arriving in the Chicago area, although not this week. So anyway,
hopefully soon.
And then the rest of them, it's kind of hard to see, but we've got Sagittarius. And
right.
after
so
that,
this time of year, you can't see them because the sun is out at the same time.
Exactly. So there he is right there. So there's Capricornus or Capricorn, Aquarius, and then we get back to Pisces. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Great.
So yeah, you can play around the stellarium and you can see this yourself as well.
Awesome. All right. So over time, representations of constellations change, not just from civilization to civilization, but even person to person. So during the last few hundred years, several astronomers published their own books and maps containing their versions of the constellations in the sky. Some of these constellations are still used today, and many are not. But there is one set that's particularly interesting. So these are the representations of the constellations, especially the Zodiac constellations, created by Julius Schiller. Did I pronounce that right, Michelle?
You did. Good job.
Excellent. A German lawyer who lived in the late 16th and early 17th centuries.
So, folks, if you have not seen this before, get ready for some of a more interesting take on constellations. So Julius Schiller wrote a book called Caelum Stellatum Christianum, which translates as the Starry Christian Heavens, in which Schiller replaced the prior names of constellations with Christian and biblical examples. I have brought one up on the screen. He replaced the zodiac constellations with images of the 12 apostles. We have this book in our historical collection, and when the Adler Planetarium reopens to the public, you can see this book yourself as part of our Chicago's Night Sky exhibit. This is why I wanted to bring this up, so that when we do open to the public at some point in the future, this isn't just something that exists as pictures on screen or in Sky Observers Hangout. You can come see this book. So here is one example that Adriana is going to talk about. Go ahead, Adriana.
I am. Give me 1 second. I accidentally did something weird with my mouse. Okay, here's one example. So this is St. Thomas. It's not only hard just to recognize what part of the sky this is with all of the drawings and stuff included, but it is also difficult to recognize what's going on here for another reason. Schiller drew his maps using an external perspective, meaning that if you imagine all of the stars and constellations in a sphere around the Earth, this is the view from the outside of the sphere looking in. In other words, the stars in these maps are backwards to how we see them from the surface of the Earth looking out, which is just, that's a weird choice. Mm-hmm. I don't know about it. Sounds confusing. Mm-hmm. So, Michelle, which constellation is this?
All right. Our audience is probably going, what am I looking at? I can't even tell. All right. Whoops, hang on. There we go. Coming up. Because anybody recognize it now? Pause. It's Leo the Lion, right?
Fast. I'm sorry.
Yeah, dramatic pause. Yes, it's Leo the Lion. It's pretty tough, right?
Yeah.
All right. You want to go on the next one?
Yeah. Okay, let's do
another one. See if we can figure this out.
I've got to say, I feel like Leo was a better interpretation of that, but I'm biased. Okay. So how about this one? This one is St. Andrew. And the constellation version that you may have heard of is, Michelle?
Dramatic reveal. This is Taurus. Although, once you realize it, you go, oh, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. So, okay. And then if you look, his shoulder is the Pleiades star cluster, although I think that really demotes the Pleiades. It's just a shoulder, a cloak flap at that point. Oh, well. Anyway. All right. Next one.
Oh, we have Tachi is actually guessing them. Excellent job.
Oh, all right.
I saw Taurus with some question marks in there. Yeah.
Whoops. Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Oh, shoot. Oh, my screen went too quickly because I probably revealed it. Okay, there we go. Go ahead.
All right. So this one is St. Bartholomew, and you guys might have seen which constellation it is, but in case you didn't, it's
the pre-Schiller constellation is Scorpius the Scorpion. Yeah. Pretty tough, right? So why didn't astronomers keep doing this? Why didn't they keep using Schiller's version of the constellation? The 17th century Polish astronomer Hevelius gave us some insight, and some of this is pretty classic. So, excuse me, I need to remove a cat from the desk. Hang on. Sorry, second cat incursion in Sky Observers Hangout. He's becoming a habit, which is not good. Anyway, Hevelius wrote that mainly for scientific and practical reasons is why we didn't continue to use Schiller's constellations. First off, according to Hevelius, no one was using them. Okay, makes sense. If no one is using your constellations, then yeah, people aren't going to remember them.
Yeah,
and there's more reasons.
That's probably what happened. I mean, they also don't. It's a little bit difficult to view this as a person, but okay.
Yeah. So
another issue.
What else did Hevelius? Yeah, there's more. What else did Hevelius say?
Hevelius also wrote that no one was selling books or maps in large quantities with Schiller's constellations, and no one made a globe using the saints in the stars. Schiller's own book wasn't printed in large numbers, and he died the same year it was published. So if no one is reading what you wrote and you aren't around to encourage folks to use what you created, well, that's probably not going to bode well for you.
No. He also wrote, and there's more, he also wrote that Schiller's naming system was, and I quote, I'm quoting Hevelius, I'm not just paraphrasing, annoying, bothersome, and tedious. I don't think Hevelius was a fan of Schiller.
So sassy. Hevelius also wrote, if you'll let me paraphrase, let's spend our time learning about how things work rather than just coming up with new names for existing things. In other words, Hevelius was telling other astronomers of that time, don't we all have better things to do than renaming things that we already have names for? Hevelius did, though, come up with his own new constellations, and some of those constellations we still use today. Sextans, the sextant, is an example. It was a representation of one of his own scientific instruments.
Yes, if you see a picture in Hevelius's own atlas, and you look at the picture of the constellation, the sextant, that is actually Hevelius's own sextant. That's actually pretty cool. Yeah. So here is where Sky Observers Hangout agrees with Hevelius. It is super fun to come up with your own constellations, and we absolutely encourage everyone to do it. Using your imagination is worthwhile, and it's an awesome thing to do. If you don't see something that someone else has written or drawn, come up with your own ideas. Your idea may even be easier to pick out in the real sky. And do people still imagine things in the real sky? You bet they do. I'm going to bring up an example from that famous 20th century astronomer. Drum roll, please. 20th century astronomer. It's that astronomer, Frank Zappa. I mean, musician, Frank Zappa. This is his album, One Size Fits All. I'm trying to hold it so that there's no glare on the album cover. So in this album cover, he put a bunch of astronomical references on the front and the back covers. I'll show you in just a second. He has a sky map with his own constellations, which is pretty awesome.
Very cool.
He's got some whales. And I'll bring it close. He's got a car.
I gotta say, my favorite constellation here is the T-Rex.
Yep, there's the T-Rex right there. Oh, I'm trying to hold it. This is hard to do. And
we can see it.
There's the whales. You see the whales? And wait a minute, this is backwards, so I gotta make sure I do it. Look at Capricorn. Get it? Capricorn. Goat with ear of corn. I didn't say they were good or funny. No, actually, they are good. They are funny.
I mean, I like it.
And here's a bunch more. And yeah, I think that's an earwig. There at the edge. You see that?
Yes. So, yes, yeah. Totally.
Ew. So I didn't bring up a photo of this because we didn't want to get in trouble. So this is an album we actually own. So I wanted to show it to you, but you can easily look up pictures of this album cover, and you can investigate all these constellations. It's not just the constellations, there's fanciful star names and everything. So lots of astronomical references in this particular album. So check out that famous 20th century astronomer, Frank Zappa.
Very cool. Our viewers may also remember a few years ago, after the death of musician David Bowie, that there was a group of Belgian astronomers who developed their own pattern of stars in tribute to Bowie's starman. Oh, Michelle,
Sorry.
I just realized, I think you were screen sharing, so it might have been difficult for people to see.
The whole time, and that was really dumb. So, you know
it
what?
happens.
Hang on. And it does. Hang on. I'm going to show that, but I need to get back to where I was before for the slideshow, so that when we do end the show, that I actually end it correctly.
Well, let me just mention this to folks while you're getting that back up.
Yep.
So if you want to read a little bit more about the pattern of stars in tribute to Bowie's starman, and see a representation of that pattern, as well as other information about the history of constellations, you can check out our Google Arts and Culture exhibit called Pictures in the Sky. Robert will put a link to that exhibit in the YouTube chat in just a bit. I also want to mention there was a question in the chat. Oh, there we go. I think Geza has just beat me to it, so I'm going to let him handle it. All right, go ahead, Michelle.
So let's try it again. Let's try this. Round 2, where you can actually see me. So I'm going to bring up my video so that I can actually see myself. There we go. Try it again. Try it again. Check it out. So you can see all the constellations. Let's try this again. There's the car. Now that I've actually practiced, I'm getting a sense of the backwardness of this. And there's the whales. And there's, whoops, I can't see. There we've got Capricorn. There's the, I think that's an earwig. That's disgusting. And lots of fanciful star names and everything. So all sorts of fun stuff. And Adriana and I were checking this out about a week ago, and there's some fun actual astronomy stuff, or close to it anyway, on the front, right?
Yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah. So there's some actual like pictures and other things. So anyway, it's really cool stuff. And then we noticed over here, there's some pictures. I'm trying to do this. There's some pictures of galaxies, and those are actual pictures of galaxies. They really do look like that. So there you go. You can check out Frank Zappa's One Size Fits All album.
Lots of fun.
Yeah. And my apologies for getting the orientation wrong again. So, all right.
No problem. We've got one question here from Jeff. I know visible stars of the zodiac are in the Milky Way, but which zodiac constellations have the most visible galaxies and deep sky objects associated with them?
I would guess that would be like Scorpius and Sagittarius. But another one might be Virgo. So it just depends on its stuff. If it's stuff you can have a reasonable chance of seeing. Here, let me bring up Stellarium. This time I'll remember that I'm actually sharing my screen.
Geza also gave the example of Virgo. Virgo has the nearby Virgo supercluster.
Yep. So there's a giant cluster of supercluster of galaxies. So I'm going to go forward in time. I'm going to go forward in months. So give me a sec. Here we go. Okay. So if you're talking about deep sky objects that you want to see with like a good pair of binoculars or even a small telescope, I would say Scorpius and Sagittarius might be your best bet, because you've got things like the, there's several globular clusters, so round clusters, and gas clouds and other things like that. So Stellarium can show you some of these. If you start to zoom in, you'll see clusters labeled. So it'll generally show you ones that you might actually have a chance of seeing. So anyway, without going into too many details, that's something that I want to encourage you, that summertime sky, low in the south, in the early evening in the summer, some definite, somewhat halfway decent deep sky objects for those couple of constellations.
Neat.
But if you want the sheer volume of deep sky objects, then the Virgo supercluster of galaxies would be it. But most of those you might have a tough time seeing with a backyard telescope.
Gotcha. We've also got the question, is the Crab Nebula in Taurus visible with naked eye? And if so, what's the best way to locate it?
No, actually, I was in our new I was in our observatory, not a new observatory, but I was looking through our new telescope a few weeks ago, and we tried to find the Crab Nebula, and just a quick attempt to find it, it was almost impossible. Now, the seeing that night was bad, meaning everything was kind of jumping around in the sky. The view just wasn't great. It's just not that bright, and it's kind of small. So we had a really tough time trying to find it. We didn't see it. We didn't spend a lot of time on it because I was cold. But I did try to find it. So some of the folks who might be in the audience might have been on with me on Zoom that night. And so they can attest to the fact that we never actually saw the Crab Nebula.
Great.
Any other questions?
Let's see. Which zodiac constellations have stars with exoplanets revolving around them?
Ooh, that's a great question.
I feel like probably lots of them, but our data about it is probably in certain specific directions.
Yeah, that's true. Most of the exoplanets have been found in the general direction of oh shoot, Cygnus.
Is the Northern Cross.
Right,
Cygnus. I was trying to figure it out too.
Because that's the direction the Kepler spacecraft was looking, right, in a direction that way. So there are other efforts looking for exoplanets, but yeah, I'd say most of them have been found generally in the direction of Cygnus. So
yeah. All right. Cool.
Good question, though.
I think that is all I can see for now.
All right. I hope everyone has enjoyed this. Now, to give everyone a heads up, coming February 19th is our latest Google Arts and Culture exhibit called Written in the Stars. And the topic will also be about the history of astrology and celestial divination and their close ties with astronomy in the past. And it's a history in which the zodiac plays a very important role. The link isn't live yet. So if you go to our Google Arts and Culture page, you won't see it yet, but you are getting a sneak preview of the name. So if you want to go to our Google Arts and Culture site, you can see all the rest of the exhibits. And Robert is going to put the link to that general site in the chat in just a sec. He's grabbing that right now. And so we have some amazing exhibits, and we hope you enjoy them. And so we want you to keep an eye out for Written in the Stars coming February 19th.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I know some people also wonder about the relationship between astronomy and astrology and how that history took place. So it's going to touch on that. It's been really cool. I've learned a lot reading about it as it's been made. So
yeah, intimately tied in the past. That's for sure. So
yes.
All right. Any other questions before we wrap up for tonight?
No, I think that is it.
Awesome. All right. Well, friends, we hope that you'll look at some constellations in the sky with some newfound perspective. Be sure to keep sending us your photos and observations via our social media feeds using the hashtag #lookup, all one word, lookup. We'd love to know that you are out there connecting with the sky and how you are doing that. Thank you so much for joining us and supporting our programming. We are happy to share this time with you.
Yes. And also tell us, how did we do? We would love to get some feedback from you. Robert is going to link a feedback survey in the chat. It'll only take a very short time to fill out. And if you filled it out before, you can go ahead and do it again. It'll help us track our improvements. And it'll also help us make these shows better. So you can send in suggestions for future show topics too. You'll also get a link to it in tonight's program description. So if the chat closes before you can click the link, go ahead and access it there.
So our next show will be at a special date, Monday, February 15th, next Monday at 7 p.m. Central, and weather permitting, it will be from a very special location. We will be streaming live from the Adler's very own Doan Observatory. Well, we
Yay!
can't, yay! We can't have you there with us just yet. Don't show up. But we will bring the observatory to you via our YouTube channel, via Sky Observers Hangout. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well, and you can get notified when all this stuff is going to happen. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Adriana, is there anything else you'd like to say before we close for tonight?
Go outside and look for your zodiac constellation. That's
There
all.
you go. There you go. That'll work. Thank you so much, everyone. We hope you stay safe and get outside and look up. Good night.
Good night.